Happy New Year, and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm Parkel, and I'm thrilled to kick off 2025 with you. This year is bursting with potential, isn't it? For many of you, that might mean navigating the twists and turns of a career transition. Whether you're gunning for a promotion or diving into the job market in search of something new, it's equal parts excitement and overwhelming. Well, let's face it, landing the right opportunity in today's competitive world isn't easy. But here's the good news. You don't have to go it alone. Today, we've got career advocate Amanda Miller in the house. She's here to show you how to leverage the power of your personal stories, those hard-earned accomplishments, to stand out, own your narrative, and approach your job search with confidence and authenticity. So buckle up, it's time to craft a story that gets you noticed and turns those career dreams into reality. One of the best cover letters I have ever seen was actually written way back in 1954. But it wasn't a cover letter as much as it was a brief introduction my dad hammered out on a typewriter that pockmarked a yellowish beige index card he used to land a job. A career move that would change the course of his and our lives. Now, this index card, stuck to a scrap of cardboard by two pieces of Scotch tape that have ambered over time, is still push-pinned to the wall in his den. So I got to read the note to you. It goes like this. And by the way, you can see the actual card in the show notes, but here's what my dad wrote. My name is Keith Howell. I'm married, 28, and a veteran. If you're looking for a civil engineer with a liking for hard work, experience, dependability, a good amount of common sense, and the ability to handle men, I'm your man. I'm presently employed, but desire a change in order to more effectively use my background. I've chosen this terse method of contacting you in order to save time. 4 years experience on dams, canals, airports, and municipal projects stand me in good stead. I prefer the Pacific Northwest as to location, but would consider work anywhere. You may contact me at 1808 12th Avenue South, Seattle, Washington. Phone, capital 8105. In red ink, in the bottom right-hand corner of the index card, our dad noted the date, 1954. Even way back then, people were still pressed for time, and my dad knew it. His terse message landed him an engineering job at the Seattle-based construction company called Schumann and Johnson. The two founders liked our dad so much that they helped him and 3 others start their own company called Constructors PAMCO, where Keith would retire as president of the company many decades later. Now, my interview today with Amanda Miller reminded me of Keith's job search, a search that honestly expressed the personality and the character of, well, quite honestly, the greatest man and role model I have ever known. So if you're looking for a new career opportunity in the new year, you want to consider how you exhibit your personal and professional brand and how an employer will benefit by bringing you on board to solve their problems.
That's my brand, is to share and support and guide people to accelerate their job search. So a program manager, maybe his brand is that he loves to bring people together to develop programs and bring them to fruition. Maybe the CEO's brand is that she is a visionary and strategic. So you want to think at not just what you do at the top level, not just your title, but how do you make a difference for people? That becomes your brand, and it should be pervasive throughout your resume and your LinkedIn profile. You should be using those words that talk about what you do and how you help. And I think that's the part that most people lose, is the how they help. because we all have problems we want solved. And so we work with people who are experts who can solve those problems.
For nearly 3 decades, Amanda Miller has supported job seekers, helping tens of thousands of them navigate the job search and integrate stories into their resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and interviews to create a compelling personal brand. That's why in 2024, she reframed her own brand as Your Career Advocate. When not working, Amanda is an avid hiker and fitness nut who maintains a keto lifestyle. She and her husband enjoy traveling now that they are empty nesters, and Amanda is always reading multiple books, in addition to, believe it or not, studying German. Not an easy language at all. So today you are going to learn how to use your accomplishment stories to make authentic connections in your networking circles, on LinkedIn, and in job interviews. So please welcome to the Business of Story, Amanda Miller. Hello, Amanda. Welcome to the Business of Story.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you reminded me that we met, as in your terms, eons ago, like maybe 10 years ago when I was doing a story training down in Phoenix. And since I've been following you on LinkedIn and so forth, and I know you're in Phoenix and you've got a son now up in NAU, just north of where I live. And recently, within like the last 3 or 4 months, I have had so many people asking me about storytelling in job searching, in resume writing, in cover letters, when to use them, when not to use them. I've had companies ask me, say, we need to attract better talent. We need to fill our funnel of prospects that will come. How can we use story to do that? So in answer to the universe coming out and saying, hey, we need to help people find jobs and locate top talent using storytelling. And given that this is our New Year's show and we've got 2025 ahead of us, I thought what better time than to bring you on to talk about how you, as a career advocate, help people land their ideal jobs and how story plays a part in that. So I appreciate you being here.
I am thrilled to talk about stories and my passion, which is supporting job seekers.
And how did you get into this line of work?
It's a really funny story. I was in college, talk about eons ago, much before you and I met. In the 90s, I was in college in Buffalo, and I was at a very small school that isn't even in existence anymore. They recently shuttered. But one of my professors said, "You're a really good writer. Will you write my resume for me?" And I said, "I don't know how to write a resume." He goes, "Well, figure it out." So I literally went to the library. This was before there was the internet, right? I went to the library and I got a book by Yana Parker about how to write a resume. And I read it cover to cover and I wrote him a resume. Now, of course, 1996, very different than 2025, right? Totally different world. But I wrote him a resume and he goes, "Wow, this is really great. You should start a company." And I said, "Okay." And so I did. In 96, I started a company that I called Career Oriented Resumes, but it was always back burner. I did it for friends, I did it for other people, and I continued on my career journey and did marketing. I worked in marketing and sales and in college admissions for many years. And then fast forward to 2007, 2006. My son was born in 2006. And in around 2007, I was like, "You know what? I really want to stay home with this little person. Can I start a firm?" And at that point, it really wasn't even resumes, but enough people knew me and knew that they did it. They said, "Why aren't you doing resumes?" Which was serendipitous because, as we all remember, in 2008, the world took a dive and a lot of people needed jobs. So it actually helped me to launch my business, to have that business. And that has become a full time gig. And I've been doing it ever since.
So yeah, you're about 15 years into being the career advocate for folks?
Yeah, I've been doing this. My son is 18, almost 19. So about 18 years I've been doing this full time for people.
Mhm. What are some of the mistakes people make that you help correct when they are sending out a resume, a cover letter, or even in that job interview that you help them, overcome?
There are so many. I mean, I could give you laundry list, which starting with there's no name on this resume. How is that even possible? No name, no contact information. But like I said, things have changed so much since I first started writing resumes. So it used to be that you would mail them, right, to a hiring manager. Nowadays, we have something called applicant tracking system or ATS, and the vast majority of companies use that. So you need to be able to write a resume that not only is scannable into the ATS, but has the words because it's just like search engine optimization or SEO. They're pulling words from that resume to find the person. So what I find most often is that people don't have the right words, they don't have a targeted resume, and they're not updating it every time. So that's the biggest issue with getting into ATS. Once it gets to a person, they're not telling their career story. They're saying all of the things that they've done. I did this, I did that, I did this. Well, that's great. How did you add value? What's your story? And that really is what a resume should be doing. For ATS, it doesn't matter as much, but for people who are the ultimate decision makers, they want to know, how did you get here? It's the first question you're always asked in an interview. Tell me about yourself. That's a story.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be a story from your childhood, but it is your career progression story. Or tell me about a time when you did something or something didn't work out right. That's an accomplishment story. So a lot of people don't carry those through. They really start on your resume. They should be on your LinkedIn profile. You should tell a story on your LinkedIn profile, 100%.
Mhm.
And then it goes into the interview. Now, you did mention cover letters. Most employers and recruiters actually don't even look at cover letters. So if people are putting a lot of energy on their cover letters, it's probably misplaced. They typically look at the resume first. However, the caveat to that is if they ask for a resume, you 100% need to include one, and it needs to be the story of how you add value. And that's the biggest miss, which is why nobody reads cover letters anymore, is because it was more of that long story of, well, I've always done this and I've done this and done that. And it's not, I can bring those talents to you to add value.
Mhm.
And that's where that story needs to be. I think when people hear about telling stories during their interviews or on their resume, they think it's all about me.
Mhm.
But it's really not all about you. It's about how you can add value to an employer. Obviously, you're the star of that story, but you want to make it so that you're saying, I've done these things and that's how I can bring value to you. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people miss that.
Well, it's a hard position to be in because you're out looking for that next big job, or you just got to bring in some money, right? So there's a bit of a
Mhm.
survival instinct underway when you're in interviewing for a job, and I think people just automatically default, understandably, to making it about them. I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this, and I can do this, where really a shift is just like you're selling anything. In this case, you're selling yourself. That paradigm shift of placing your audience at the center of the story, in this case, the employer at the
Mhm.
center of the story. What is in it for them? What
Yep.
problem solution dynamic are you able to solve for them? And how can you illustrate your talents and your abilities through, as you mentioned, a story of how you've done it in the past so that they can picture it, they can feel it, they come
Mhm.
along that journey with you, and they learn something about you in that process, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you nailed it right on the head because it doesn't matter if you're looking this is my running joke. It doesn't matter if you're looking for a job, your next client, or a date for Saturday night. It's all marketing. It's all marketing, and you use the same kind of approach. You're not gonna get a date for Saturday night if you keep talking about yourself. You need to talk about the other person. You're not gonna land a big client if all you talk about is how great you are. You need to talk about how you help them, and you're not going to get a job if you just talk about all of the things that you can do. You need to show them how you add value. So it's all the same. Marketing is pervasive, and the same tactics work everywhere, just like sales. So sales isn't part of the applying. When you apply the cover letter, the resume, LinkedIn, that's all marketing. The job interview is where you're looking at sales. That's where you want to close the deal. And a lot of people miss that. And ironically, the people who are worst at it are sales and marketing people
Why is
because
that?
they don't see the connection. Once I get to them and I say, "Look, you're the widget that we're selling."
Mhm.
And then they step back and go, "Oh yeah. Like what are your features and benefits? What's the story of how you add value?" And then they kind of get it and then they're able to step back a little bit. But interviews are trying for anybody, right?
Yeah.
It's not this isn't something that we do all the time. And like you said, if you're looking for a job, there are a few reasons that you're usually looking for a job. You're unhappy where you are and you have the luxury of looking, or you're brand new, so you're a college student, you never had a job before, or potentially like someone who stayed home raising kids or caring for elderly parents or something. They've been out for a while. And then the other reason is you got laid off or let go. And I deal with a lot of people who've gotten laid off. And that's just such a blow to the ego because it's not your choice. The decision is out of your hands. And all of a sudden, you're caught up in somebody else's reality and you're done. And now you might have severance, you might not. You have to keep the roof over your head. You might be the breadwinner in the family. You might have to carry health insurance. That's a lot of stress to now go out and try to think about, okay, I need to talk about my value when all you're thinking in the back of your head is, I need this job because I have to pay my rent. I need this job because my kids need shoes, right? It's very challenging to think about all of those things when you're stuck in the middle of it. So many
Mm.
emotions.
Yeah, you want to take the desperation out of it, don't you? Which is
Mhm.
really hard to do because it's very understandably, as you put it, it can be desperate times for you. And then add to just the stress of going in, even if you're not in a desperate time, the stress of sitting across from somebody, putting yourself out there for this job and the fear of rejection, which none of us,
Mhm.
of course, like to have, but it's just all a part of the process.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so hard. I mean, if you're a new business, you're desperate for clients, right? If you've been single for a long time, you're desperate for a date. It all, like I said, it all follows through. And so getting that desperation out of the way, I understand that if you've lost your job, there are a lot of emotions. I mean, it's truly a grief process. And so you need to grieve. I get it. But then you pocket that away, and then when it's time to apply, time to reach out to people, time to interview, you really need to think about, like you said, the whiff 'em factor, I call it.
Hmm.
What's in it for me,
Hmm.
from the perspective of the employer and how you can add value to them. It's key.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these different story categories that you help coach and teach your people looking for jobs as their advocate. What's like the first one that they need to be thinking about, and do you have a framework in how to tell that story? And do you have an example of it in action?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're looking at stories in the job search, I call them accomplishment stories. So you need to have accomplishments on your resume. Back in the day when I started, a resume was all bullets and it had tasks. And a lot of people still have resumes that look like that. Today, they should have a brief paragraph overview of what you did and then bulleted accomplishments. And those accomplishments are stories, and there's a framework for telling them, which I use CAR. Some people may have heard SAR or STAR. It's all the same, but CAR is challenge, action, and result. So you faced a challenge at work. What did you do to overcome it? And what were the results associated with it? Now, a lot of people, when they hear that, they think numbers. I've got to have numbers. Numbers are great. I'm not going to deny that. It would be fabulous if everybody could put numbers on their resume. But I will tell you, because some people are using like ChatGPT now, ChatGPT will put numbers on it, but they're not the right numbers. So it'll say increased happiness 25%. Well, how do you know? You can't measure happiness. So there does need to be a result, but it doesn't necessarily need to be numbers. And sometimes it can't. So the 5 areas that accomplishments usually live in are that you made somebody money, you saved somebody money, and somebody could be the company, a client, employees, vendors. You made somebody happy, improved processes and systems. So that's usually around efficiencies. And then the last one is to mitigate risks. So if someone were in IT, I would say, maybe you decreased downtime or you increased redundancy so they didn't have any issues if things went haywire. So that's where they usually fall. And then on the resume, we would just put the result plus the action. So the challenge doesn't need to be there. So a simple example is sales were down. That's your challenge. The action is that you implemented a training program. And in fact, I just worked on a resume yesterday like this. A guy worked at a retail location. The sales were down. He implemented a new training program for the team because he was a manager and suggested, that they focus on asking everybody a question when they walked in. How can I help you? I'm just looking. So if the just looking people, they let them look. When they talked to the people who said, well, I'm looking for, then they spent more time with those people. Obviously, more time with them made them spend more money. And so that increased sales. I believe he said 25% within 6 months. So that would go on the resume as increased sales 25% in 6 months after transitioning away or creating a new training program and transitioning away from the old one. So that's what we put on the resume. Now, when he goes into the interview, they're going to say, tell me about a time when you were dealing with low sales. And you would go, oh, I absolutely have a story like that. Well, when I worked at this retail location, we had a problem that their sales weren't very high. And so he goes and tells that story, right? And that's where you grab people. Because what's that saying that something tells, stories sell, right?
Mhm.
Facts tell, stories sell. So, that's where you grab them, but whether it's on the resume or if it's in the interview. And obviously, the only job of a resume is to get you an interview. So they might have glanced over that, but they don't know the behind the scenes story. So in the interview, you have that luxury. On the resume, it's quick, increase sales by doing this. But in the interview, you tell what happened, and I talked to other people and I got ideas and you draw them into that story. And then they go, wow, that's really awesome. You could do that for us. So that's why it
Yeah,
makes such a huge difference.
you think about that resume as kind of being your trailer, your movie trailer. Get one line in there that is going to be of real interest to them that they're going to want to know more about. So all you're doing is piquing that curiosity, and then you're ready with that story when you're sitting down across from them in that interview. And that whole idea about tell me about a time when, I think, Amanda, is so incredibly important, and it's a fantastic story muscle building tool. For anybody out
Mhm.
there looking for a job right now, ask yourself that very question and see if you can't come up with 4 or 5 moments when you had a real positive impact in making something happen. Well, let's say 5 moments going right down your list. How did you help them make money? How did you help them save money? How did you help them increase happiness around the culture? How did you improve processes, and efficiency? And then the final one is how have you mitigated risk? So you can probably find a story for each one of those if you just take the time, meditate, slow down, think about it, and ask yourself that question. Tell me about a time when I helped my employer make money. And then take them to that moment, because every story
Mhm.
is about a moment in time when things changed. And in this case, you are the instigator of that change to help them make more money, help them lose less money, help them create happiness, whatever it might be. And you can tell that story, Amanda, in under a minute in an interview.
Oh,
It's not
yes.
something that you have to go on and on and on about, right?
Mhm.
How do you get your people to
Absolutely.
shorten them down, to get to the point?
Yeah, and I had one gentleman that I was working with, and he was such a sweetheart, but he told me the story, when we were meeting, and he went on for a good 3 minutes, and then he started to go into another story, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." If you're in an interview situation, try to keep it to 1 to 2 minutes. Look at your audience. Are they glazing over? Are they leaning in? Are they interested? That all helps you know what's happening. But after you finish that one example or story, then you say, is that enough? I have plenty more.
Mhm.
If they're interested, then certainly you can tell them more. But that gentleman, I had to kind of rein him in and, they don't need to know all of the details, but they need to know enough so that they're interested. Bring in that, emotion, and even better, if you can tell them what you learned out of that accomplishment,
Ooh, I
because they're
like
certainly
that.
not going to see that on the resume. But in the interview, say I increased sales 25% by doing this great thing. And what I learned is that my team really needed that guidance. And so I came in as their guide to provide them with the support to say, you know what, it's okay. If people are looking, you don't have to hover around them. Let them look. Keep an eye, be available, but spend your time on those people who really need the support and help. And then it changed the dynamics of the environment. So that's what that gentleman learned, right?
Mhm.
So it tells so much more, because what are employers looking to hire? People who solve problems, people who are critical thinkers. So by telling them that story and what you learned, not only are you illustrating how you helped solve a problem, but also your critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
And that's what they want.
Yeah. Well, and you're using the essential power of a story, which is a learning tool. We listen to stories because we want to learn what we would do in case whatever is happening in that story happens to us. I mean, it is embedded in our survival amygdala mechanism, and that's why we use stories. So I love that idea, and that coaching you just provided is not just tell the story, but then put a bow on it by saying, here's what I learned from it. Here's how I
Mhm.
grew from that, because now that employer can benefit from that. Someone else has paid for your
Absolutely.
growth. Your previous employer paid for your growth that now that hiring manager can take advantage of.
Yes, absolutely. It's so much better when you can do that. And sometimes they might give you a tell me about a time when, most of the time it's that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about a time when things were falling apart. But sometimes they say, tell me about a time when you were super proud of something. It's still the same framework. We were facing this challenge. I took this action, and then my result was whatever that result was. And I was really proud of my abilities in that. And I really learned so much about how I could grow in that position. And so it's okay to be proud about stuff too. Employers like to hear those stories as well. They don't want to just hear about problem solving. They want to hear about your best day ever, or when you came home and were like, "Woohoo, I did it."
Now, how do you use those same accomplishment stories on LinkedIn?
On LinkedIn, they should go in a couple of different places. So LinkedIn also is a search engine, and that's really important for job seekers to understand, and really business professionals. Everybody should understand. LinkedIn is a huge search engine. So you want to have keywords, obviously. You want to have keywords in your headline, you want to have keywords in your about, which is your summary, but they call it about. And you want to have some keywords in your accomplishments for your experience, as well as your skills, which are essentially keywords. Where it comes to stories, you want to have stories in your about section, and then as your accomplishment. So whereas a resume is kind of black and white, right? It's very straightforward. We're just trying to get through bots and grab somebody's attention to call for an interview. LinkedIn profile is much more an opportunity to build relationships. I don't care who you are, what you're trying to accomplish on LinkedIn. That's really what the core of LinkedIn is building relationships. You post things that I appreciate, so we have a relationship on LinkedIn. I post things that you appreciate, and it goes on, and we're sharing knowledge. And so by having those stories, people get to learn a little bit more about you, and you want to frame it that way. So sometimes people will just copy their resume onto LinkedIn, and that's fine. However, you can up-level your LinkedIn profile by using those I, me, and my words, the pronouns that make people, and one of my favorite projects I worked on was this. And I did this challenge and this action and this result, and I learned that from it. Go into that depth, maybe not to the interview level, but not as hurt as the resume level, somewhere in between, so that you're sharing those stories. I had someone that wanted to work with me, and just in my about section, the first thing she said was, "Oh, I see you're a Doctor Who fan," because I have something personal in there. I think you should be three-dimensional on LinkedIn. And I said, yes, I do. I love Doctor Who and Little Mermaid, and Wonder Woman's behind me right now in my office. I have it all over my office. And she said, that really grabbed me. And the way that you wrote your about section, you told me a story of not only what you do, but your passion and how you can help me. That she was in hook, line, and sinker. And that really wasn't my intention, right?
Yeah.
My intention was just to tell a story, but she was like, this totally resonated with me. And then I was in. And I think that's where job seekers, again, that fear factor. I just want to get a job. This is what I can do. It's like, tell them a little bit about yourself. Be a little bit vulnerable. You don't want to be over the top, but a little bit vulnerable to share that information so that they want to like and know you. As we do business with people we like, know, and trust. We hire people that we like, know, and trust as well.
Yeah. So can people go to your LinkedIn and use it as a template for
They often
what they
do, yes.
Yeah. So that's a good place to find it. And just follow. I'm going to do that for myself because I need to update mine. I haven't done mine in a long, long time. And so you have just given me a task over the holidays. I'm going to go in and review yours and add some of that, storytelling to mine, I believe. Now, let me ask you this. This is the day and age of personal branding. You hear that all of the time. Branding, of course, came out of the corporate arena to try to invoke and infuse humanity into brands and so forth. And now people are really pushing, and there's expensive courses out there people could take to find what is your exact personal brand. How important is it really in the job search? And how do you help someone find what might be that personal brand story?
That's a great question because it is a buzzword that people talk about all the time. And an excellent place to showcase a personal brand is on LinkedIn. So I think with LinkedIn, a lot of people do the bare minimum on their profile, but you can really make it a portfolio. You can have, think about it as a website. And that's what I tell people all the time. If you land on a website, that image and words right off the bat, because most people, statistics show you people will wait on a website about 3 seconds until they figure out what the value there is. They'll do the same thing on your LinkedIn profile. So your image behind you, the image of yourself, it needs to tell your story, whether in words or pictures or both. So I personally have a picture from hiking because I love to hike, and anybody who connects with me on LinkedIn sees my hiking pictures. They talk about it all the time. And then I have an overlay over that has my logo. And I say that I'm passionate about supporting people as their career advocate and how I add value. So when they land on it, they know what I do. So a job seeker should do the same thing. I have a job seeker I'm working with right now. His background image is a race car. I said, are you a race car driver? Do you fix race cars? No, I'm in business development. Then the race car is not saying anything about that. If he had a picture of people even just shaking hands, something that shows what he does in images. My husband has a picture of a bunch of TVs behind him because he's in media. You don't have to have words. Words are helpful, but you don't have to. If you go to Canva, I love Canva. I don't know if you use Canva.
I do too. I use it all the time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So Canva has a free option. I tell job seekers about it all the time. And they have a LinkedIn background. And it's perfectly sized, and they have all kinds of examples. And you can use one of those if you want to as a start. But it should demonstrate who you are so that when people look at that, paired with your headline of your good words that say who you are for them, that's your brand, right? Your brand is who you are for them. So when people say, when you go meet people, well, what do you do? Well, it's not just, I'm a financial advisor. What do you actually do? Well, I help people to solidify security in their future. There it is. So then that's what your brand is, solidifying people's future. I help people, I may not be known around the world, but I am so grateful for the fact that I can help so many people and they make impact. So it's like a ripple effect, right? Because same with you. You help people to tell their story, and through them, other people get to experience what they want to do. So I love that. And that's my brand, is to share and support and guide people to accelerate their job search. So a program manager, maybe his brand is that he loves to bring people together to develop programs and bring them to fruition. Maybe the CEO's brand is that she is a visionary and strategic. So you want to think at not just what you do at the top level, not just your title, but how do you make a difference for people? That becomes your brand, and it should be pervasive throughout your resume and your LinkedIn profile. You
Hmm.
should be using those words that talk about what you do and how you help. And I think that's the part that most people lose is the how they help, because we all have problems we want solved. And so we work with people who are experts who can solve those problems.
And
And that's the brand.
it underscores what I talk about all the time, and that is your story is not about what you make, but what you make happen. So in your world,
Absolutely.
you make resumes that are really work well. That's the vehicle to a bigger quest, and that is what do you make happen? You get people in the right jobs in the right place as their advocate. And as you were talking, Amanda, I pulled up your LinkedIn site, and I invite anyone else to. It's Meet Amanda Miller. Pull it up as you look through it as she's talking about this, because you've got that nice bio picture of you. You've got the logo above it, the career advocate or your career advocate. You, as you mentioned, you have that nice mountain picture, but then that's the backdrop to your words, passionate career advocate providing resume services, job search coaching, LinkedIn optimization, and then even below that, you've got three more, content marketer, hiker, Wonder Woman. So you've really done a fun job of combining both your personal attributes with your professional attributes, all within this little header on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that's what I encourage people to do is, I have been introduced as a speaker as Wonder Woman. So it's a thing. People know me for that. I couldn't just let it go. And so, I have infused that into my brand, my personal brand. Now, on my business website, you won't find Wonder Woman. You won't
Mm-hmm.
find hiking pictures. That's a little different. But LinkedIn it's three-dimensional. You really want to show a bit of yourself. And I tell everybody that I work with that. Don't just post, I'm on a job search. You absolutely want to say you are on a job search, but you want to say what you're looking for. So that's the other thing that people have a problem with. They don't say what they're looking for. Most of us don't understand titles anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Program manager. Well, where do you want to work? I'm looking for a job as a program manager and I want to work in a tech industry. Companies I'm targeting include, right? That allows people to latch onto it. And that's something as a job seeker you absolutely want to include on LinkedIn. But you also want to show that you're a thought leader. Hey, here's a great article that I read. Ask questions and then share something about yourself. It doesn't have to be the primary thing, and it's not Instagram, it's not Facebook. Your personal brand is not on those sites. That's your
Mm-hmm.
personal stuff, right? That's not your brand. But, things that you do. My son's home for the holidays. I guarantee you I'll have a picture of the family up on LinkedIn before the holidays are over, right? Those are just things that show people, and people love that. They love it when pictures come up and you see a little bit of three dimension. Jessica Pierce, who owns Career Connectors here in the Valley, highly recommend that all employees look for at Career Connectors. But shares all of the stuff that she does as career connectors. They have events and all kinds of things. But she's also been sharing her weight loss journey, her fitness journey, how she reached a certain age, as we all do, around 50, right? And she went, oh, where am I going with my life personally? She loved her profession. She wasn't going to change that, but she realized she'd gained a few pounds, as we do as we get older. And so she posted up pictures of her journey and how it empowered her as a person, not just, oh, I lost some weight, but now she has a whole new tribe of people around her. And now she's sharing that with people on LinkedIn. Why can't we all do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes such a huge difference to gain people. And that's storytelling, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's absolutely what that is.
Well, Amanda, let's look at your short bio underneath your name on LinkedIn. And let me read it real quick. And then if you could share your strategy behind this. So, Amanda Miller, your name under your picture, and then it reads resume writer, career advocate, and job search coach who has helped 10,000 plus job seekers advance their results. Blog writer, content writer, and storyteller who boosts traffic and engagement through SEO writing.
So that's my headline. And that's for anybody who's, following along. That goes right under your name, obviously. Your headline needs to encompass at least two things, preferably three. The first thing it must have as a job seeker, it must have the titles of the positions that you're looking for. While LinkedIn is a very powerful search engine, it's not going to guess, right? You have to put in the title. So if you are looking for a position as a CEO, you need to have CEO in there. If you're looking for multiple titles, that's okay. As you heard, when you read it, it says multiple titles there. That is okay. People find me all the time for resume writer, but they also find me for blog writer. So they'll find a job seeker by putting those keywords of what they're looking for. The next thing it needs to have is how you help. So what do you do uniquely? Again, your brand, your personality. What do you do to help businesses thrive if you're a job seeker?
So in your case, Amanda, you have those three areas of resume writer, career advocate, and job search coach, which plays right to LinkedIn's SEO, followed by how you help. Who has helped 10,000 plus job seekers advance their results? That's the 1-2 punch, right?
Yep. And then the third thing would be numbers, if at all possible. So 10,000. I've helped 10,000 people. You don't want to get into the trap, though, and I see job seekers doing this all the time with years of experience. With 30 years of experience. I literally read a resume the other day that said 42 years of experience of this and 43 in this. And I was like, how old are you? They overlapped, but that's not how it read. It
Right.
read as if this guy had been working since he was, he's 80 something years of work, and now he's in his hundreds and he's looking for a job. So what putting years of experience does is it really drives more the I'm old, right? And I'm old. I'll take that on. I don't mind it. But when we get 40 plus, 50 plus, I have clients I work with who are 60 plus. We don't want to tout 30 plus years of experience. Yes, I do have 30 years that I've been working with job seekers, but that doesn't help anybody. It tells them that I'm old, it tells them that I have a lot of experience. Yes, but how have I helped them? I could have been phoning it in for 30 years. So, you want to put, if you have them, and that's why I said this isn't a requirement because some people don't have numbers. But if you have numbers and you were able to, you consistently saved billions of dollars for companies because you're an excellent risk analyst, then you need to put that in there. Risk analyst who helps companies save millions of dollars with an eagle eye for detail. That would be an excellent header for someone who's a risk analyst.
Well, then you go on with yours. So you've got the three areas: resume writer, career advocate, job search coach, and you've helped 10,000 plus people, period. And then you go on and you add some more descriptors: blog writer, content writer, and storyteller who boosts traffic and engagement through SEO writing. So you're very, very specific. And is this all really pretty much keyword driven?
It is, yes, because if someone is looking up blog writer, I mean, the top job titles are what they're mostly looking for. When you do a search on LinkedIn, if you're an employer, they have a different portal. I don't know if job seekers know this, but employers have a different portal and a different way to look at LinkedIn. So they're going to still be using the SEO component of it and looking at keywords, but they do look at it differently. But if you're maybe you're just a decision maker, you're not the recruiter, you're not HR, but you're a decision maker and you're kind of looking for somebody, then you would look for those keywords that are the titles. So those are imperative. I see a lot of people who put flowery words on there, and there's nothing wrong with saying passionate or, excited or things like that. Absolutely. But then they put things like, business professional. Well, no one's going to look up business professional. That's not a keyword.
It's too
They're
general.
going, it is, it's way too general. They're going to look up what you do and how you can solve their problem. And if they're looking for someone to solve their problem, they're doing it based on title because they have a risk issue. So they're going to look for a risk analyst. They have a finance issue. So they're going to look for a financial advisor, right? That's how we look for things. We think about what will that title be that someone would have and how can I find them? So yes.
Amanda, how many hiring managers really do use LinkedIn to try and find talent versus, talent agencies and other job boards and so forth?
The vast majority of recruiters, every recruiter I know uses LinkedIn first.
They do. So
Yeah.
they need a program analyst. They will literally go into LinkedIn and say, search program analyst in the North Carolina area or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it used to be before LinkedIn, they would have to call companies. They would find companies that might hire a program analyst and they would say, I need to talk to your best program analyst. And then they would get them on the phone and say, hey, Bob, the program analyst, I have a job that I'm looking to hire for, and we're paying this much. Are you looking for an opportunity? Well, now that's all shifted. Certainly they can still do that, but most of it shifted to LinkedIn. So they don't have to look for that company, they look for the person. So they want to find people who are actively looking for jobs, or a better coup for a recruiter is someone who's not actively looking for a job, which is why they would call those companies because they weren't active. They couldn't find them if they posted a job advert. They'd have to call a company. So there's that debate that leads into the debate of, do I put the open to work? Do I not put the open to work? A lot of recruiters like to see the open to work because then they know you're going to be receptive to the offer. So they reach out, they say, oh, yep, you have what I'm looking for. I'm going to reach out to you. You've already said you're open to work. The likelihood that you're going to follow up with me is pretty high.
And you're talking about that little graphic that goes on your image.
Banner.
Yeah,
yep.
Open to work. Says, I need
Absolutely.
a job, basically, is what it's saying.
Yes.
How often do you have someone come to you looking for help with their resume and so forth, and they're not on LinkedIn? They have zero presence on LinkedIn.
That actually does happen more than you would think.
I'm not surprised. Yeah,
I have some people who just don't like social media. And, even though it's not Facebook, LinkedIn, or LinkedIn is a social media, right? It's not the same as the others, but it is social media. So they're anti that. I have some people who work in high clearance, like they have a security clearance and they don't want to have that presence because of that. Sometimes the same is true with people who are SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they can't put a lot of information out. So they are regulated and they don't put it. And then some of them are just older. They're 60 plus and they never got on it. They never needed it. And I don't push. I suggest you should use LinkedIn. It's not only powerful to, it's not, I use this analogy a lot and younger listeners will not get this, but Field of Dreams, the Kevin Costner movie,
build it,
if they
will come.
They will come, right?
Yeah.
And that's not how LinkedIn is. Like you do build it, you build your profile, and yes, they will come for a little while, but you need to be engaging on the platform. And if someone is not willing to do that because they don't like social media, then they're probably not going to get a lot of results from LinkedIn.
Yeah, and by engagement, you mean posting and reacting and commenting on other things, and even using LinkedIn as an active sourcing research tool to see who are the companies out there you think you'd like to work with, who are the professionals within that organization that you really want to reach out to. Follow them, invite them to connect, comment on some of their posts, if indeed they're posting, so that you show up in their world.
Yes. And that is 100% what I tell people to do all the time. It's much more than just posting. Or posting a profile. I just talked to someone yesterday and he's like, well, we just covered LinkedIn. You told me how to do my profile. I have it all set. What else do I have to cover? I said, oh, honey, I can go on for 45 minutes about LinkedIn. I have an ebook. I've done presentations on this. Like there's so much. Not only can you optimize the heck out of your profile and make it a portfolio, but you can really, like you mentioned, you can source people. You can source jobs. Yes, you can find jobs on LinkedIn, but I'm talking about going above and beyond that. I really want to work at this company. So I'm going to get fingers into that company and infiltrate it and start to find people who might be able to help me. Or I just found this job and I applied. So now I'm going to reach out to the decision maker and introduce myself. That's where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a person isn't willing to take that on, then LinkedIn isn't probably going to be much of a benefit for them.
Yeah. Well, it is a storytelling tool for them. It's, before LinkedIn, you did not have this ability to get in front of people and share your wares, share what you've done, your stories and your accomplishments. LinkedIn absolutely provides that for you. So it's just another storytelling tool in your arsenal as your career advocate, being your own advocate out there to try to find the right jobs and connect with the people that are going to have a say in whether they're going to hire you or not.
Yes, absolutely. And people who don't want to use LinkedIn, then I say, there are other tools. And that's exactly how I refer to it, as a toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
You have LinkedIn, you have networking, which happens on LinkedIn, of course, but it happens in person. So you can do networking. The holidays are a great time. I know that we're past that now, but times when people gather together is a time when you can network with folks, even if it's in at your house or a relative's house. But there are, of course, networking events that I talk to people about. That's a great way to start finding your tribe and telling your stories.
Well, and
And
practicing those stories. You've got this accomplishment
exactly.
story. You've gone and you've asked yourself that question, tell me about a time when, and then play with them, share them around the dinner table, share them with your networking group, share them with your friends and family to see how they're landing and how you can get so practiced at them, they become much simpler. I think of Jerry Seinfeld. When you see him on stage, he seems like he's just riffing. It's all off the cuff. It's absolutely hysterical. His timing is perfect, but he also has thousands of hours of practice into delivering that same monologue over and over and over again. And so why shouldn't we do the exact same thing? Now, you don't have to put in thousands of hours, but it is certainly worth practicing and sharing these stories with people and see how they're landing. And can you tighten them? Can you make them funnier? Can you make them more interesting? Can you really emphasize that problem solution dynamic in a different way? And it's kind of fun to do because you get to tell your stories, practice them. So when you are on in that interview, they come out of you much more naturally.
Yes, absolutely. And just, people who should absolutely practice. But if you ever get for a job seeker, if you ever get a question where they say, tell me about a time when, and you don't have one, don't get worried. You just acknowledge that. Honesty is always the best policy. You know what? I honestly can't think of a time that I've had that happen. Or I know I've done that, but I just can't remember that right now. However, if I were faced with that situation, this is how I would probably see that happening. And it's okay to even say, I would talk with leadership if you're not in the leadership role. I would converse with my colleagues and see what their thoughts are on it. And this is the result I would probably see coming to fruition because of that. Because they're looking for problem solvers. So you can still tell a great story even if you haven't experienced it yourself. You're just kind of making it up on the spot, right?
Yeah.
And extrapolating.
Well, it goes back to your and my background in advertising, branding, marketing, right? You said you did that before you got heavily into what you're doing now. And I can't help but think of Christopher Lochhead, who is a legendary Silicon Valley marketer. And he boils it down to simply, nobody buys a solution unless they have a problem. The reason why you, as an interviewer, prospect for that job or sitting across from that hiring manager is they have a problem. They need to fill this position with someone who's going to help solve that problem. So as the storyteller interviewee, if you can address their problems directly, demonstrate that you understand and appreciate what that hiring manager is going through, you demonstrate your empathy for why they have that particular problem, and therefore you could potentially be the way forward with your talents, abilities, integrity to help them overcome that challenge by simply hiring you.
Yes, absolutely. And that works in every situation, in an interview, on LinkedIn, in networking. Every time it works because you are trying to solve problems. And you're right, they don't even think about hiring until they have a problem to solve.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, this has been fantastic. I think we could go on for 3 more episodes talking about this, and I would love to. We'll bring you back later in the year and talk some more about this. Where can people learn more about you? And you mentioned you even have an ebook on how to use LinkedIn in the process.
I do.
Where can people find this?
Yeah, so they can always reach out to me on my website, which is yourcareeradvocate.co. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, as you mentioned, I am Meet Amanda Miller because unfortunately Amanda Miller was taken. So you can meet me. I thought that was fun. Then, of course, if you go to my website, they all interlink as they do these days, but you will find an opportunity to reach out to me and email me, and I'd be happy to send that book. Just say, hey, I heard you on Parks broadcast, and I would love that ebook, and I'll happily send it to you. And I have 2 versions. I have one for job seekers, and I have one for business professionals. So if they just let me know who they are, I will send it either one to them.
That's awesome. So the website again is yourcareeradvocate.co, C-O.
Correct.
Or follow you on LinkedIn, Meet Amanda Miller, and go and check out Amanda's page. I'm going to do that. And like I said, I'm going to rebuild mine over the holidays because I think it needs a refresher. I did mine from total seat of my pants. So I'm going to do it. Not that I'm looking for a job, but I'm always looking for customers and clients and to help people. What is the outcome that I create? I help you excel through the stories you tell. So yes. I need to probably make that. Yes, it does. I love alliteration and I love bad dad puns. So that's what, if you follow me at all, you know that. But this has been just charming. Amanda, thank you so much for being here. And Happy New Year to you and to all of you listening. And best of luck in your career growth through 2025. Wow, what a show. Isn't Amanda just amazing? And I think you can really take her insights to heart if you indeed are looking for that new career opportunity in the new year. And if you know somebody that is, then by all means, share this show with them. And again, if you want to check out that little index card that my dad typed up way back in 1954, go to the show notes. I got a photo of it right there for you. Listen, if I can help you and your people excel through the stories you tell in 2025, give me a shout over at park@businessofstory.com. I'll gladly come out and see you all in person. I've got virtual mastery courses, and of course, I've got the online micro training course called the ABTs of Storytelling that you can actually use right now and apply in your world. Just go to businessofstory.com/ABT. Also, over the past couple shows, I've been mentioning our new Story Cycle System Analyst, which will enable you to craft and tell an amazing brand story about your brand in under 1 hour. That's right. I've taken my 20 years of developing the Story Cycle system. I've spent about a year and a half with Sean Schroeder developing the tool powered by AI that you can use that will reduce the cost and the exhausting amount of time that quite often can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to create a brand story. You can boil that down to just 1 hour with our Story Cycle System Analyst. And we are putting together a cohort to do a beta on it. I've already been doing a lot of prototyping with it with probably 30 people already, and they are blown away. In fact, Brian Burkhart said it is insanely incredible. So if you would like to be a part of that cohort, shoot me a note over at park@businessofstory.com. We are putting together a hit list, and we will select 10 to maybe 15 people to join us in that training. It is a $500 investment, but it is totally guaranteed if after taking the Story Cycle System Analyst and running it through me, where you and I get to work directly together on it for about an hour, if you are not completely satisfied with the outcome, I'll give you your $500 back. So you're going to want to be a part of this initial group. Shoot me a note, park@businessofstory.com. I also have a landing page for it in my show notes, so go check that out. And hey, I hope you will join us next Monday when who do we have? We have Mark Rampolla, founder of Zico Coconut Water and author of High Hanging Fruit, Build Something Great by Going Where No One Else Will. He's here and will share how he built a brand that was so enticing that Coca-Cola bought it. And after a few years, Mark bought it back for pennies on the dollar. This is a masterclass in how important unwavering focus is to developing your brand and its story. Heck, you'll need the hydration benefits of coconut water after listening to Mark share his story. I mean, it's that fantastic. So until then, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make that one a great one for 2025. Thanks so much for listening.